Hey, Merry Christmas to you. I came across an old Christmas story. The author of it's unknown, and it's different than you might expect. And it's called The Old Filling Station. As you'll see up here on this picture, it's depicted something like this up here. So let me go ahead and share this story with you, and I feel sure that it will truly bless you. An old man sat in his gas station on a cold Christmas Eve. He hadn't been anywhere in years since his wife passed away. He had no decorations, he had no tree, he had no lights. It was just another day to him. He didn't hate Christmas, he just couldn't find a reason to celebrate Christmas. There were no children in his life, and his wife was gone. He was sitting at the window watching the snow that had been falling for the last hour when the door opened up and a homeless man stepped through. Instead of throwing the man out, old George, as known by his customers, invited him to come in and sit by the heater and warm up. And this man stated, "Thank you, but I don't mean to intrude. I see you're busy. I'll just go." Now George says to him in his kind of Southwest accent here, "Not without something hot in your belly, son. I've got a thermos here, and it ain't much, but it's hot and tasty. It's stew. Made it myself. When you're done, there's coffee, and it's fresh." Just at that moment, he heard the ding of the driveway bell. If you're not familiar with what that is, back a few decades ago, they had this cord that ran across the gas station lines. And when a car would drive over it, they had the bell inside of the gas station, and it would ding when guys would come out and pump your gas. Now we all pump our own gas, but except in the state of Oregon, they still have to pump it in that state, so they would understand this. And then George said, "Excuse me, buddy, I'll be right back." There in the driveway was an old 53 Chevy. Steam was rolling out of the front of it. The driver was panicked. He said, "Mister, can you help me?" You see, he was over from Scotland. "My wife is with child and my car is broken." George opened the door. It was bad. The block looked cracked from the coal, but he wasn't sure, and the car was as dead as a doornail. "You ain't going in this thing," George said as he turned away. "But, mister, please help me." The door of the office opened behind George, and he went in, got the keys to his old truck, and he went back outside. He walked around the building, went into his garage, started the truck, and drove it around to where the couple was. And George said, "Here, you can borrow my truck. She ain't the best thing you ever looked at, but she runs real good." George helped put the woman in the truck and watched as it sped off into the night. He turned and went back inside for coffee. "Oh, glad I loaned him my truck. Those tires were just shot on that car, too. My old truck has brand new tires," George thought as he talked to the stranger, but the stranger was gone. The thermos was on the desk, empty with a used coffee cup by it. Well, at least he got something in his belly, George thought. George went back outside to see if the old Chevy would start. It cranked slowly, then started. He pulled it into the garage where the truck had been. He thought he would tinker with it, for a day or so and see what he could do. Christmas Eve meant no customers. He discovered the block was actually good. It was just the bottom hose of the radiator. I can fix this, George said. So he put on a new one. Oh, those tires ain't going to get him through the winter. He took the snow treads off of his wife's old Lincoln. They were like new. Then he wasn't going to be driving the car anyway. As he was working, he heard a shot fired. He ran outside, and beside a police car, an officer lay in the cold ground, bleeding from his left shoulder. He moaned, "Help me." George helped the officer inside, remembering the training he had received in the Army as a medic. The wound needed attention. So George said, "Pressure stopped the bleeding here, son." The laundry company was there that morning and left clean shop towels, which he didn't think he needed, but little did he know he did. He used those and duct tape to bind the wound. "Hey, they say duct tape can fix anything," George said, trying to make the policeman feel it is. Something for the pain, George thought. All he had was the pills that he used for his back. Well, these ought to work. He put some water in a cup and gave them to the policeman. "You hang in there, buddy. I'm going to get you an ambulance as soon as I can." But the phone was dead. "Well, maybe I can get one of your buddies out there on your walkie-talkie or something in your car. I'll see what I can do." He went out only to find the bullet had gone through the dash, destroying his two-way radio. He went back to find the policeman sitting up. "Thanks. You could have left me there. The guy that shot me is still in the area." George sat beside him. "I'm never going to leave an injured man in the Army, and I ain't going to leave you now." George pulled back the bandage. "Well, it looks a whole lot worse than what it is. A bullet passed right through you." He said, "Boy, you don't know how lucky you are, son. I missed everything, all the important stuff anyway. I think it's time, in just a short period of time, you're going to be right as rain." He poured a cup of coffee. "Well, how do you take it?" "None for me," the officer said. "Oh, you're going to drink this. Best in the city." "Too bad I ain't got any donuts for you." The officer laughed, wincing at the same time. The door flew open, in bursting a young man entering with a gun, shouting, "Give me all your cash. Do it now." His hand was shaking, and George could tell he had never done something like this before. That's the guy that shot me," exclaimed the officer. George said, "Son, why are you doing this? You need to put that pea shooter away. Somebody else might get hurt with that thing." The young man, confused, "Shut up, old man, or I'll shoot you too. Now give me all your cash." The cop was reaching for his gun, and George said, "Put that thing away. Come on now. We got too much of that already. That's what got you hurt in the first place." He turned his attention to the young man. "Son, it's Christmas Eve. Come on. If you need money, well, then there it is. It ain't much, but it's all I got. Now put down that gun now, and let's just forget about this." George pulled $150 out of his pocket, handing it to him as he reached for the barrel of the gun. The young man released his grip on the gun, fell to his knees, and began crying. I'm not very good at this. My name's Joe. I just wanted to get something for my wife and my son for Christmas. I lost my job, my rent's due, my cars got repossessed last week." He's in a hard way. George gave the gun to the cop. "Joe, We all get squeezed now and then. You know how that goes. Road gets hard sometimes, but thank the Lord we make it through the best way we can. Not this way. He got Joe on his feet. He set him down in a chair across from the cop. Sometimes, George said then, sometimes we do some stupid things. Like coming in here with a gun. That ain't the answer, son. Now sit there, get warm, and we'll just sort this thing out together. Joe stopped crying, and he looked at the cop. So sorry I shot you. It just went off. I was scared, and it just went off. He answered. The cop answered him and said, shut up and drink your coffee. Just then, there was a sound of sirens. A police car and an ambulance skidded to a halt. 2 cops came through the door, guns drawn. Chuck, you okay? One of them asked the wounded officer. Not bad for a guy who took a bullet. How did you find me? Oh, that GPS locator in your car. Well, who did this? The other cop asked, and he pointed towards a young man. And Chuck answered, the policeman answered and said, I don't know. The guy just dropped his gun and ran off in the dark. George and Joe looked at each other very puzzled. Then Chuck said, well, that guy works here. Yep, I just hired him today. Well, look like you got one doozy of a break, son. That's all the worst of your problems. And George went back in the room and came out with a box. He pulled out a small box. He said, here you go. Something for that little woman of yours. I don't think Martha would mind. She's gone to be with the Lord anyway. She said it would come in handy someday. So I guess today's the day. Joe looked inside to see the biggest diamond ring he had ever saw. I can't take this, he said. It means so much. It's special to you. And then George replied, nah, it means something special to you. I got my memories, and that's all I need. George reached into the box again. A toy airplane, a race car, and a little metal truck appeared next. They were toys the oil company gave him to sell. Here's something for your boy. Joe began to cry again as he gave back the $150 to George that George handed to him earlier. And what are you going to buy Christmas dinner for? What's the matter with you, boy? You keep this. Count it as part of your first week's pay. Now get home to your family. Get. Joe turned with tears streaming down his face. I'll be here in the morning to work if the job is for real. Nope, George replied. You ain't going to be here tomorrow. It's Christmas Day. I'm closed. See you the day after. Well, George turned to find the stranger standing there that he saw in the very beginning. Well, where'd you come from? I thought you left. I've always been here, he said. You say you don't celebrate Christmas. Why is that? Well, after my wife passed, I couldn't see going to all that fuss. Putting up a tree seemed like a good waste of a good pine. Baking cookies like I did with Martha just ain't the same by myself. And besides that, I get a bit chubby when I eat all those cookies. As you can plainly see, the stranger put his hand on George's shoulder. You do celebrate Christmas. You gave me food and drink and warmed me when I was cold and hungry. The woman with child will bear a healthy son. and he will become a great doctor. The policeman you helped will save 19 people from being killed. Joseph, the boy who tried robbing you, will become a rich man, sharing his wealth with many. That is the spirit of Christmas, and you keep it as a way of life. George was bewildered by what the stranger had said. How do you know all this? Trust me, George. I have the inside track on these things. And when your days are done, you will be with Martha again. The stranger moved towards the door then. If you will excuse me, George, I have to go home where there's a big celebration planned. George watched as the old man's old yellow jacket, a leather jacket, and torn pants turned into a brilliant white robe. A warm light began to fill the room with the glow of radiant colors. And then he said, "You see, George, it's my birthday. Have a blessed Christmas, George." There you have it. Have a very Merry Christmas. And remember, happy birthday, Jesus.
We hope this message has touched your heart and quickened your spirit with the encouragement and the love of Jesus. If you have a prayer request or would like to contact us, the information is on the screen now. If you would like to give a love donation to this work for the Kingdom of God, please use the PayPal link at the bottom of the page and use the Donate tab. God bless you richly.